Hey everyone, Kyle here. Welcome to another installment of CMAC's media literacy tutorials. If you've been keeping up with us, then you already know quite a bit about what media literacy is, why it matters, how to verify your sources, check for bias, and now, how we're all unintentional media creators whenever we post to social media. But if you haven't had a chance to check them out, I highly recommend doing so by viewing our YouTube channel or our website, cmac.tv. In this video, we're going to talk about intentionally creating media for the general public, focusing on authority and how messages are sent and received, specifically when you create a website, blog, or video to discuss a topic you're passionate about with the community at large. In those instances, you, or the person acting as the host in the video, would place yourself in a perceived position of authority. When we're on social media, we know when someone is sharing a personal thought or opinion and can generally approach it with a healthy dose of skepticism. But when we're watching or reading a carefully crafted message, especially one that mimics a news program or professional grade commentary platform, we tend to lend a bit more trust into what we're being told. That trust is what an audience surrenders to you when you produce media from a position of perceived authority. There are various titles a creator may fall under. In the arena of nonfiction media, such as news, politics, science, fitness, social issues, pop culture, food, and gaming, there are four main categories for producers: the reporter, the journalist, the activist, and the commentator. Each provides something different for their audience, and some, by design, owe an increased level of responsibility to the public. Before we dive into the different titles, it's important to note that while reporter and journalist are discussed separately here, they are intrinsically connected by their principles, and professionally, the titles are often used interchangeably. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics states that many journalists work as reporters, but not all reporters are journalists, and categorizes each based on how the research is conducted for a story. With that said, it's not the only distinction, and there's certainly much more that could be said on the topic. However, for our purposes, we'll focus on the relative styles of producing a story and any appropriate responsibilities. Let's get started. The reporter, or reporting. Generally, reporting seeks to answer 6 main questions in every piece they produce: who, what, when, where, why, and how. Reporters write delivery of this information without concern for opinion, theirs or otherwise, or political bias. Focused only on the facts, reporters present an event as it happened in real time, with some background to inform the public, as well as provide any context which would be valuable to the news consumer. For example, a new restaurant opens in a city's recently developed area. A reporter would cover the grand opening by informing the public about who the owners are, what the restaurant looks like, when the grand opening occurred, where the restaurant is located, how the restaurant got its start, and why the restaurant's location in the neighborhood might meet a goal set by the city for developing the area. The why can change here based on the driving factors of the story. Instead, the reporter could focus on why the owners decided to open the restaurant, or why they chose to open in that city versus another. The most important thing here is that reporters deliver all of the above without introducing their opinion or thoughts on the matter. And they likely won't weigh the pros and cons of the business decision either, only that it occurred. The journalist, or investigative journalist. The investigative journalist takes the role of reporting a step further by diving into issues of public importance beyond the core 6 questions of who, what, when, where, why, and how. They do this by researching all sides of the topic, speaking to experts for context, staying mindful of any internal or external bias, and checking the level of legitimacy in the information they collect. If you've watched our previous media literacy tutorials on checking your sources, this might sound a little like the crab test. And it is. The test isn't just an excellent tool for consuming media, it's also great for creating it as well. If the concept is new to you, I highly recommend going back to our media literacy playlist and checking it out. For context, I'll go over it briefly. Currency deals with how recent the information is. Having outdated information might be problematic for topics that evolve rapidly. It's essential to have updated sources support a story. Relevance concerns the connection between the information and the story. Is the source relevant to the discussion, or does it distract the audience? Authority is often a significant consideration that stands just ahead of the others. It reflects the necessity that the information collected is from a credible source, whether an institution or individual, with substantial and official standing on the topic. Accuracy falls right behind authority and is pretty self-explanatory. Is the information accurate? Purpose may sometimes be overlooked, but it's an important step in determining whether the source is reliable. What was the purpose of producing the information? If that purpose is guided purely by self-interest or sway of opinion, it may be a quick way to determine that information's credibility or lack thereof. Again, this overview of the CRAP test isn't exhaustive. For a more detailed look, check out the video Know Your Sources in our media literacy playlist. Journalists do all of this and more to dig down into the core of a story and uncover the true heart of a societal problem. Like the reporter, their thoughts and opinions are left out. Instead, it's the evidence of the information coupled with a balanced view from both sides of the issue that paints the whole picture. A journalist indeed needs to synthesize the information they collect into a narrative that fits into a video or article, but they do so according to a code of ethics. According to the Society of Professional Journalists, as stated on their website, ethical journalism strives to ensure free exchange of information that is accurate, fair, and thorough. Visit their website to learn more about the principles of ethical journalism. For example, a journalist would not record, say, an interview with a politician or political group without doing everything in their power to fact-check and investigate all sides to the story. However, it may not always be possible to do so, and a journalist would maintain transparency by informing their audience as such. It's also important to note that a journalist may cover one side of an issue while a separate journalist covers an opposing view for stories within the same organization. It's easy to see why the journalist title comes with so much responsibility. Assuming the role of a journalist for yourself isn't just a stylistic choice. It's also choosing to hold yourself accountable and adhere to a higher standard of producing media for the public. The activist. The activist differs significantly from previous producers because an activist advocates strongly for a particular cause. As a producer, the activist generally takes a position in a debate or controversial issue and communicates persuasively why one side might be more advantageous to the other. The story may contain loaded language to help inspire the audience to agree with their views. Activists may also include their opinion, although subtly, to the structure of their content. For example, an environmental activist may produce a story about pollution levels in the ocean and how it's society's burden to fix it through public policy. Whether or not it's the only or best way to correct the problem may not be part of the discussion. It may not include exploring other options or giving a fair look at who else might have a share in that responsibility, i.e., corporations or other countries. The activist produces a story that aligns with the stance they've taken on the issue by giving the audience the problem and the solution they think is appropriate. Often, citizen journalists, the self-proclaimed journalist, more appropriately falls in this category. The miscategorization can become problematic when a citizen journalist, or activist in this case, misrepresents themselves as press during protests. Without proper training in media law and ethics, the activist can exacerbate tensions between authorities and the press if they're not careful. The Poynter Institute for Media Studies, a nonprofit journalism school and research organization, offers a well of information available to the public for free on their website at poynter.org. Among the list of resources for media literacy, fact-checking, and journalism ethics, they also provide helpful information for journalists to cover protests safely. Check out this video's description for the link. It's essential to always represent yourself accurately to prevent unnecessary consequences for yourself and others. The Commentator. The Commentator provides opinionated feedback on a particular topic or issue. Unlike the journalist, the commentator's purpose is not to evaluate the issue with a balanced consideration for both sides. Instead, the commentator approaches the discussion from their personal perspective, guided by their background, experience, education, or general interest in the topic. Generally speaking, anyone can become a commentator. There is no requirement that a person is an authority on a subject before speaking on it. Movie or gaming reviews are the most obvious examples of the kind of content a commentator may choose to create. However, what may not be obvious are those shows concerning news or politics. Commentary is open to all topics. For example, Fox News. While news appears in its name, it's largely commentary. In understanding the differences between these creator roles, you may find one style fits your goal better than the other, and any responsibility that might come with it. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide what kind of creator you're going to be, whether you choose to be one of the above titles or none at all. However, disclosing to your audience what sort of authority you may have, whether you speak from experience, opinion, or purely out of fun, helps foster trust between you and your audience. It also minimizes any potential harm that may result from misinterpreting your message. But understanding the authority that may come with a specific creator role is only a piece to the whole responsibility owed to your audience. It's also important to know how to present your messages to them. Framing. Simply put, it's not only what you say, but the way you say it. Imagine for a second that you just had an argument with a friend or partner, and after some time passes for the disagreement to cool, you ask, "How are you?" And they respond, "I'm fine." Would you take that at face value and assume everything between you two is good? Probably not. What would help you understand the meaning behind what they said? It's most likely helpful to know the tone in which they said "I'm fine," along with their body language and perhaps even the context of the argument that occurred between you two. The meaning of "I'm fine" changes with each of the above pieces of background information. If their tone was condescending or curt and their arms are crossed, they probably aren't fine, but rather they're not ready to talk about it. However, if their tone was friendly and they appeared relaxed, they might really be fine. The point is that we infer the meaning based on more than what was said. We also focus on how it was said. And likewise, every message we send out into the world is set up for others to receive it in a particular way, whether we intend for it to happen or not. This happens with the language that we use, what we choose to focus on or leave out of our stories, our tone, and what kind of imagery we pair with our stories. We set the stage when we deliver messages like a play. It's not only about the lines the actors speak, but also the set design, lighting, and music that go along with it. Without paying careful attention to some key details and asking some very important questions, it's also possible to unintentionally structure our messages in a way that wasn't meant for the audience to receive it. The National Association of Media Literacy Education, a nonprofit organization dedicated to advancing media literacy education in the United States, hosts U.S. Media Literacy Week by bringing together hundreds of partners for events and activities around the country. As part of their program, they've put together a list of questions for creators to consider when producing content. These questions are not exhaustive, but they represent the core of them. More can be found on their website, medialiteracyweek.us. Interpretation. How might different people interpret this message differently? Effects. Who might benefit from this message? Who might be harmed by it? Whose voices are represented or privileged, omitted, or silenced? Questions like these provide habits of reflection, a chance for us to check how we may have said something that might be interpreted in a way we didn't intend. As creators, we have a responsibility to our audience. They give us their trust when they continue to watch or follow us as we produce media, and we respect that trust whenever we maintain transparency, promote accuracy, and accountability. Plus, all of the above does a great deal to help grow our audience as well. For more information on media literacy, visit our website, cmac.tv. And thanks for watching.